Hey, we're live. That was quick. All right. So, anybody watching this in the future, later tonight, early in the morning, during the week, after waivers have run, just because you want to, I'm going to quick run through the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receiver, tight ends based on these rankings for the most part. I'll run to a PFF article just to make sure there were no names that pop up there that didn't pop up here. And just give some quick thoughts on it, and then I will get into any of the questions in the comments. So, sorry, I also have this up. There we go. All right, quarterbacks. Jackson Dart. Yeah, obviously worth a waiver wire worth having. Michael Penix. I'm talking like one quarterback league. Michael Penix, yeah, fine. Two quarterback league. Of course, I would assume that like all these guys are owned outside of maybe Spencer Rattler. But hey, go check out Spencer Rattler. He's actually been decent. Actually, on the season, let's just see. Um, where he ranks amongst the guys so I don't have Mac Jones, Cooper Rush, Joe Flacco, Carson Wentz. I don't have any stats for them, but um, there he is. So what is that like? Quarterback 22 on the season doesn't provide any upside really, but just consistently fine for that purpose. So that's fun. Let's move on to the running backs. Jack Start's really the main guy there. For the running backs, Michael Carter is at the top of this list. Looking lower, Ken Gainwell, Hassan Haskins, Kendra Miller, Tyler Algier. I would say some of the guys like Kendra Miller, Tyler Algier are going to be better stashes. Kyle Mananga, even like a deep stash kind of guy. Same with Brashard Smith. That long term, you're looking for something more important are up there. If you have a really good running back room, Michael Carter is still probably worth having over them, even in that kind of situation, in case you do suffer an injury. Ken Gainwell's right behind that because we don't know for sure, although it is expected that Tyler Warren is supposed to be returning this week. I don't disagree with that. Obviously, remember what he did 2 weeks ago. If he gets an opportunity to be a starter there, again, you definitely want him. Maybe he'll get a little bit of an increased role. It's not the best week for running back there this week, though. So, for the most part, wouldn't plan on being able to use him, but there is a chance that he'll be very usable. Hassan Haskins, reportedly, can't remember who the report came from, is the next man up for the Chargers. I originally ranked Kamani Vidal. I haven't gone and fixed my running back rankings. I will prior to recording tomorrow morning. But if that's the case, I guess he's probably the guy to have. I don't Kamani Vidal kind of get that third down work kind of role then. Without a good offensive line, I just don't know that Hassan Haskins does much. But always worth having the starting running back on a roster. And that will be for some time, too. This won't be the only week. So Hassan Haskins, I would actually put above Kenneth Gainwell. But I don't love him. Kendra Miller, Tyler Algier, I already talked about those guys. I think they're worth having. Tyjae Spears, I kind of agree having him lower on this list. It's going to be a split with Tony Pollard to some extent, almost certainly. And I don't, what's the upside in that Tennessee offense? Not great. But probably, like, I would say up to Kyle Mananga are, depending on the size of your bench, your league, who you have on your roster and everything, are pretty much like guys that are worth having on a roster. A guy like Kamani Vidal might only be a 1 week thing. He doesn't do anything. Doesn't have a long run like Imari Marcado, but has that same usage, and you just drop him next week, is a possible situation. Other than that, let's move on to the wide receivers. My voice, come on. There we go. All right, Troy Franklin's at the top of this list. Surprise, surprise. I guess that means there's no new names for wide receivers. Kendrick Bourne, I don't know exactly what the status is of the Juwan Johnson returning or Ricky Pearsall returning this week. I feel like probably both, maybe one of them at least. So that would reduce Kendrick Bourne's upside there. I would personally, in the short term, I'd probably rather have Kendrick Bourne stashed than Luther Burden, just in case if I'm in an emergency situation in my wide receivers room. Outside of that, Darnell Mooney, Troy Franklin, I'm going to agree with those two being at the top. I think I think I would probably put Darnell Mooney over Troy Franklin there. Josh Downs, a fine guy to pick up off of as a free agent to use for a week is kind of where I would place him. It's a really busy wide receiver and tight end room, and they run the ball really well. Uh, yeah, defense plays well enough that they're not like just sitting there having to pass. So Brandon Ayuk, I still don't love. I do think last week maybe there was a slightly more positive report on where his health is, but it's still just like it's almost impossible that he'll end up contributing to you. Trey Tucker, in that same boat as Josh Downs, just kind of depends the week, the matchup, if I'm going to like him more or not than like Josh Downs that specific week. Christian Kirk, I still think is maybe worth having more close to like Marquise Brown, which is probably still in that same territory of Tucker and Josh Downs. Isaiah Bond is worth, I think, a stash just to see if that connection happens to blossom. I mean, he got 9 or 10 targets last week. That's something worth seeing what happens. That's a totally new situation. He's a very explosive, young wide receiver. That's the kind of gift box that you don't know what you're going to get. So I would put him probably third behind Darnell Mooney and Troy Franklin if you're just looking for that kind of guy. Darius Slayton, I think, not a good week coming up. I don't like him for next week. And I just think too questionable. Flournoy, Tolbert, similar station of like probably one of them could have good games while CD's gone, but CD should be coming back possibly this week or next week. So it's not a long-term thing. Kayshon Bouttie's going up against New Orleans this week. Those cornerbacks did have a really good week last week, but they don't every week. So that's a possibility there. And then for the tight ends, my boy, Mason Taylor, talked about him all off season. I love him. I love the situation for him. This was exactly why I liked him. And so for 2 weeks in a row, it's been really nice. We'll see if that continues or not, but I would definitely agree with him being at the top of the tight ends list. Theo Johnson, unfortunately, he's not getting too much yak or like deep targets really, but he does seem to have the ear of his quarterback, the eyes of his quarterback. So I do like him. I don't like him this week, to be specific about that. Evan Ingram, Harold Fannin, I would probably actually still have over Evan Ingram just to see what you might be able to get out of that. Brenton Strange can be out for a while, so for now he's you don't need to roster him. AJ Barner, is interesting. I'd probably put him in the same tier as like Evan Ingram, Taysom Hill. One thing to think about with a guy like Taysom Hill is this is a new offensive coaching system there, and they don't have like any kind of history. Is chat actually just this dead so far? Or is my chat not working? Okay, it is just this dead so far. Last Thursday was so busy. So for Taysom Hill, they didn't really get to work with him this offseason or anything, so I just feel like the ramp up and everything would probably be very slow and might be like one of those things where take a bye week for them to really explore what they could do with him. Outside of that, let's check these out. I don't know why Green Bay Packers are this low owned. Ooh, that playoff. Apparently a really, really tough schedule for the playoffs. But until then, I think they should definitely be owned. New England's defense looks to be, now that they got Christian Gonzalez back and the other pieces have been performing well outside of that anyways, looks to be doing pretty well. And, they have a really good schedule. Indianapolis Colts defense, I think, has been performing pretty well. Raiders, Jacksonville, a lot of turnovers. I don't know how long it'll keep going, but they keep doing it. So that's that. And then, let's just check out quick this PFF article. Quarterbacks Joe Flacco with Cincinnati Bengals. They have second on this. That's kind of why it's Jackson Dart and nobody else for the most part. Running backs, Michael Carter at the top of the list, of course. Kendre Miller second. I do tend to agree with that. He's worth taking over like a Hassan Haskins, I guess. Especially if you're thinking more long-term than just in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Kyle Mananga, I do think, deep stash. We should not be absolutely shocked if we come out of Chicago's bye week which was in week 5, and in week 6 we see Aumanangai legit like getting work. That's a possibility. Isaiah Davis, obviously, Worthy, Keaton Mitchell, Josh Brooks, deep. Troy Franklin, Alec Eilmanor, Alec Pierce is somebody who is not on that other list that I would definitely have included. He was doing pretty good. He's definitely in that like better than some of these guys, on the season. I mean, you know what? We can look at it real quick. Let's go to this chart. So of everybody that I chart, which I think he's going to be on this list. How has he done on a week in and week out basis? He's in this group, right? He's done better than Alec Eilmanor, Ridley, Keishawn Boutte, Terry McLaurin, AJ Brown. I'm just looking more so. Like Cooper Kupp, he's been better than. Jameson Williams, of course, he's been better than. Marvin Mims, Josh Downs, Jerry Jeudy, T. Higgins, not that you're like dropping him. Matthew Golden, Travis Hunter, Kirk. Was better than Darnell Mooney in like his one game, because I think I would have eliminated the game that he got injured in. I do cherry pick this a little bit. Any other names that people are holding on to that you would... No, that looks to be kind of the list. So, not the worst, and I do think that he was looking good, and his route tree was like slightly expanded as well. So, just... if you need upside, like he can give you those big games. So just somebody that's worthy of having on probably more roster than he's on. What is it? 3.5%. I have him on a roster of mine with like a thinner wide receiver room. Isaiah Bond said, I think he's worth checking out, finding out. Jalen Coker, of course. My big fear with Jalen Coker would just be that he thrived on volume, and now Tedrow McMillan kind of gets like a lot of volume. Hopefully he doesn't kill Tedrow McMillan's volume, because he hasn't, he's struggling to do a lot with the volume alone. But Jalen Coker definitely is a guy that I think has the trust of Bryce. So I don't know why they have Alan Lazard on this list. Everybody getting excited about Taysom Hill, of course. There's one rush for 0 yards or something. I don't know what his stats were. Couldn't have been great. Yeah, there you go. That's all the names that I have, and without any questions, let's end the stream. Now, are there any questions out there in the world? Or am I just hanging out for nothing? Let me check. See if anybody's even watching. Otherwise, we can just end this, and then people can watch it. It's like the first time ever. Yeah, like nobody's in here. So I guess YouTube didn't pick me up very well. I'll give a moment. Oh, there we go. Mr. Rolla. What is up, Rolla? I should probably give at least 15 minutes. I know people have been popping in and voting. We do have 7 votes, but nobody seems to have too many questions. It is not a strong waiver wire, and it's kind of obvious, like, depending on what you need, what you need. So that makes some sense. Good evening. Put a claim in for Mason Taylor. Yes, I have Fannin and Kittle waiting on IR. Yeah, I mean, probably. Just to see, like, so it's probably... It sounds like Kittle's not going to be back this week, but probably back next week. It sounds to be, like, the most likely situation. So it is probably a 1-week thing. So just in case you are reliant, or I should say, like, your waiver wire is reset and you want to hold on to your waiver just in case, like, is it worth putting one in, I think is kind of the question there. I have Mason Taylor and Harold Fannin back-to-back. I'd probably being a little bit optimistic about Harold Fannin. And like Jake Tongus, if anybody else returns in that wide receiver room, I'm going to move him down, at least behind Mason Taylor. But Taylor's going up against Denver this week, so like it's not the absolute best matchup in the world. Of course, I said I love him. So actually, let me tell you my argument for why I do actually love Mason Taylor, despite having him ranked like 15th probably when all is said and done. The argument. So more of a PPR play than like half PPR or standard league, standard scoring. Like, don't really expect the touchdown this week. But I do expect that there might be a lot of volume and low efficiency on that volume, because Denver's has a nice attacking, good linebacker core, they haven't allowed tight ends to be very efficient on them, if I remember correctly, so far. Through the first 4 weeks, I don't have week 5 yet. That's going to come in tomorrow on here. FTN fantasy points against tool is sweet. So for purposes of where are you, Denver? All right, so here's Denver in terms of receptions. So targets are not like the absolute lowest, kind of in an average range. They're around 6. On the lower end for receptions at 3.8. So even though they get targeted decently, kind of like Philadelphia, good linebacker room, they don't allow the catch too often. Receiving yards a little bit more efficient than Philadelphia, but 44 receiving yards to tight ends on average per game. It's average efficiency. So once again, what I expect is good amount of volume because you're going to have Patrick Surtain covering the only receiver in Garrett Wilson. So I would assume that Garrett Wilson will have like 2-3 less targets than he might against a different opponent in a similar like setup throughout the game. So maybe it's going to be as low as 6, possibly even this week, which would probably be a good thing for Mason Taylor if that ends up being the case. And then Breece Hall. We got low touchdown upside, high volume, low efficiency is kind of my expectation with Patrick Surtain almost certainly shadowing Garrett Wilson. So, I'm not expecting like a massive week, a game-winning week from him. But if you think it's worth it, Pittsburgh, by the way, you want to see. Harold Fannin, it just depends what they do, right? Like, what's the game plan? But yeah, Pittsburgh's pretty good against tight ends too. Better, it looked like at that quick glance. All right. I see chat came alive. And Bruce, Ben again, Nathan, Ronaldo, Brandon, what's up, y'all? Thanks for stopping in. It was absolutely dead for the first 15 minutes, but that was actually kind of nice because it allowed me to just get through what I needed to get through. Hello, Kincaid or Theo Johnson? I got Kincaid ranked higher than Theo Johnson. In fact, I don't like Theo Johnson next week, whereas last week I liked him more than even Mason Taylor. Where are you, Theo? Yeah, at the bottom. He is my fade this week, going against Philadelphia, so it's like I think it's a worse situation than Mason Taylor against Denver because there is no Garrett Wilson, and really Theo Johnson has been, and the tight ends in general have been who Jackson Dart has been relying on. So like that's already a strength for Philadelphia. And now that's probably going to be the game plan also, is to take that away from him, make him uncomfortable, force him to try to throw to his receivers. And then when he's trying to throw to his receivers, you got Wandale, short, inefficient stuff, so keeping drives alive is going to be tough there. And Darius Slayton's almost certainly just going to be covered up on the deep stuff by Quinyon Mitchell. So, like, that's not going to really be a viable target and probably won't get caught most of the time. I'm pretty sure Quinyon Mitchell will have no trouble shutting down Darius Slayton. He might not quite shadow him, but I think he'll cover him up, a lot of the time. So I just think that the main focus is what you should do is really just shadow Darius Slayton with that. Make sure the deep threat does nothing. You're not too afraid of what Wandale does. You just have some zone coverages and stuff, kind of keeping an eye on him and just shooting down every time he catches the ball and tackling him immediately. And then you just focus on shutting down the tight ends and making sure that the ball can't get to them. And then New York can't do much unless they can get that run game going, which maybe you can against Philadelphia. Maybe that helped open up some things. But I don't like Theo. And Kincaid is, once again, in an offense that's probably going to score several touchdowns, 3 to 4. Bruce, is it worth dropping Juwan for Kincaid or Waller? Yeah, I probably would. I don't know that Juwan Johnson, immediately... I don't know that last week is representative of what happens going forward. I don't think that... In other words, I don't think that was a result of those two other tight ends coming back because, Taysom Hill doesn't run traditional, he's not like a big slot wide receiver like Juwan Johnson is. They kind of had two different tight end roles. They don't really eat from the same plate too often, at least. But the other guy does. I just don't know that he was like on the field at all. I haven't looked at the split of how much he was, but you know, I would. I liked Kincaid preseason more than Juwan. You know, obviously, at this point, he is doing better than Juwan Johnson on the season, and there is some threat to Juwan Johnson's work, at least, whereas there isn't for him. And Darren Waller has been surviving off of a 15% target share, so it's not like he's getting heavily targeted yet, at least. I still like that tight end role in Miami, and he's obviously liked near in like as a red zone target, which is tight. Touchdowns are huge, so maybe he'll just kind of survive off of those. It's not like Dallas Goedert, Dalton Kincaid aren't surviving off of those. Very few tight ends do much if they don't get touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, I think Darren Waller will probably have more touchdowns than Juwan Johnson rest of the season. I think Dalton Kincaid also probably true, and you know, is more efficient per target. And Lost Burrow, I have to stream quarterbacks. Drop Goff for Stafford? Yes. Love Stafford this week. He is in my top 12. Goff is outside of it. Just barely. But going up against Baltimore, that's pretty nice, huh? You know? Nathan Boyd. Hello, Nathan. How are you doing? Would you trade? What up, Michael's Budget Podcast? Hello. How are you doing, my brother? Would you trade Scattaboo, Lad McConkey, Jamar Chase, and Jacobs for Rashee Rice, Lamb, and Cook? All right, so we did just get, the trade quarterback into Cincinnati. I think that's probably good for these guys. I moved T. Higgins up my rankings because he'll actually just give guys a shot. Like, he doesn't care if he throws picks anymore. Scattaboo. Okay, so Scattaboo, stock a little bit down. Tracy's back. Lad, who knows, but he's not going to be like what you drafted him for. Same with Jamar Chase and Jacobs. Okay, so Jacobs, Cook, I would basically say they're about the same. So then let's just do these by position. Okay, Rice and Lamb. Rice, Lamb for Lad, Jamar Chase. I think, I think Lamb's the best of the group. So I lean that way, but then we got Scattaboo included. It just feels a little bit rich for me. Guys, what do you think of Nathan Boyd's trade? Don't forget, Scattaboo, Tyrone Tracy's coming back. There's going to be some sort of split there. I don't know that it's so heavy. I don't think it kills Scattaboo. But there will be some sort of split. Like, he won't be what he's been the last 2 weeks in terms of usage. It's close enough. It's close enough that, like, I'm okay with it if you're comfortable with it. I do think it's a little rich. By, like, a half a player. I don't know. Could you get a little something else in there? Just even I don't know, something else. Kyle Pitts or Mason Taylor, Stafford or Darnold. I think that is Stafford for me this week, right? Yeah. Gonna go Stafford. Jacksonville defense actually half decent. And not that I'm like super afraid of him for Darnold. What was the other one? Pitts or Mason Taylor. Yeah, I don't love Pitts this week. I ended up moving him down after looking at that matchup a little bit closer. Who is that matchup? Buffalo. Buffalo's good against tight ends, one of the best against tight ends, actually so far on the season, which isn't a perfect stat with this few sample sizes when it comes to the tight end position specifically. But I got David Njoku and Juwan Johnson ahead of him, if that tells you something. Kyle Pitts or Mason Taylor. I do have Pitts ahead of Mason Taylor. There's a chance I'll end up with Taylor ahead of Pitts. I don't know that that's going to happen. So for now, it's Kyle Pitts. You could always come back on Sunday and double check my rankings. Just see they'll be up on the screen 3 hours prior to kickoff. For that 3 hours, you could just look at it quick. You don't even have to ask and just see if I did change it, because that's something that I will look back into after I get those fantasy points averaged against those new numbers for week 5, just to kind of see how that'll change things. But I know Buffalo still did good against tight ends last week. Brandon, do I trade Rachaad White for Kendre Miller? I have Bucky. And what if Bucky comes back and gets injured again? So I do not think Rachaad White's in a good matchup for himself this week. You could. You could. You're obviously taking it, that could obviously backfire. As long as you understand that it could backfire, there is that potential that, like, if they trade away Kamara, if they don't trade away Kamara, Kendre Miller's not going to be incredibly valuable. But I guess he would be maybe as good as Rachaad White, or not as good as, because touchdowns and receptions are a little bit more valuable than rushes. He'll be Tyler Algier. It seems like he's kind of like Tyler Algier, which isn't very playable, right? So that is the risk. And he's probably not as good of a pure runner as Tyler Algier. And he's on an offense that, once again, fewer touchdown opportunities. John Bow, what is up, John? How are you doing? Is Kittle supposed to come back this week? Last I saw it, probably not. But that was, a report from, 10 days prior to game day or something. So you never know what will happen. He is available to come back, but they were not optimistic about him coming back this week. It sounded like it's more like week 7 is most likely. But we'll see. Tight ends tend to be tough dudes. You get close, you push for it. He might be a little bit limited if he comes back. It was like every time I was breathing, there was must have been a piece of spit in my throat or something, and it was making a wheezing sound. Let's go. What's up, Michael? It's been a little while. How have you been? How is your fantasy teams doing? Hopefully better than mine. You can't really get worse than how I'm doing in fantasy so far this season. Definitely not all because of poor drafting. There were a couple of draft choices that I made that I would have helped my teams if I had made a different one. But once again, T. Higgins. If Joe Burrow was there, I think I would be fine with having made that choice. But it was over JSN, and it was actually a mistake because I had Chase Brown on that roster, and I after I took T. Higgins, I looked and I was like, oh shit, I would have gone JSN because I kind of had them tied in my rankings, but I had T. Higgins ahead of them. And then I was like, I would have rather diversified for that reason, in case Joe Burrow goes down. So that sucks. That was literally just like, I just blanked. Because JSN sure would have been nice to have. Compared to T. Higgins. Is Rice going to be auto start for week 7? Well, he's just coming back from a suspension, so yeah, probably. I would have him as my wide receiver 2 over Adams. I don't know that I would put him over Adams. That'll depend on the matchup. Because, look, I'm going to be a little bit cautious on Rice to begin with. It's a 3-game sample size from last year. I love Rice. I predicted that Kansas City would draft Rice because I thought he was a wonderful fit to be the heir apparent to Travis Kelce, oddly enough. But that was just his skill set, is that zone killer. And Travis Kelce's, been getting older. So I love him. I love that role. And we know Patrick Mahomes loves hitting that area of the field, loves that type of receiver. And that ability to get open for a guy who can extend plays, it works really nicely. So I don't think he'll be bad. But we've never seen him, Marquise Brown, and Tyquan Thornton now, and Xavier Worthy, all of them, it might not be as good as it was last year, is all I'm saying. And that was a small sample size last year. I would be flexing him over Chase Brown, sure. Rachaad White, probably. Terry is healthy. I would say generally yes over those. I would not necessarily call him an auto start over Adams, but the rest, yes. Definite, should be an upgrade. I don't want to say definite, but... Our 14-team league, barely anyone to pick up. Yeah, are you in that, Michael? Yeah, I haven't done my waiver wire stuff, but it's rough. I don't think you're in mine, but yeah, it's just rough in 14-team leagues. Would you pick up Kendre Miller or Michael Carter to drop Ollie Gordon? Generally speaking, Michael Carter. But if you're not planning, I don't like Michael Carter this week. I'm gonna be the low guy on him. I think it's a bad matchup. I think they're going to be playing from behind. Frankly, I didn't think that he looked very good. So they've said they're not going to punish Amari DeMarcado. Like, I think Amari DeMarcado very well might outscore Michael Carter this week, but because of volume, I mean, I'm keeping Michael Carter in this tier, even as, same tier as DeAndre Swift, but I do have a fade tag on him, and I've got him like as low as I could get him. So yeah, I'm not too optimistic about that. Indy's been really good against, specifically, I think, against running backs on the ground. So if we look at rushing yards, there they are. Kind of like top 10, but 78.8. It's in this like good territory, whereas you go down, some of the worst teams are over 100, but like significantly lower than just a few spots lower here than 92, 14 yards per game lower there. So like they're pretty good, and teams also, I want to say, not rushing against them a whole lot either. Second least rush attempts against them. They've been kind of killing teams to having leads. Like, I kind of think they might crush Arizona. So I don't think it's going to be a good Michael Carter game. So if you're not planning on starting him this week, Kendre Miller. If you need someone to start, Michael Carter. Just get this. There we go. So these are currently, this is the Fantasy Pros list, which I don't agree with everything on it, but just to have something on the screen. Team doing well. I got most points scored and most points allowed. Yeah, I've got most points allowed and am high up in other ones for points allowed. I believe I'll check after this week. But it's been a lot of injuries. So this week, there's literally like 2 injuries, right? Omarion Hampton, Brenton Strange. Yeah, I got both of them. CeeDee Lamb. Of course, the Joe Burrow injury kills T. Higgins and Chase Brown. I've got Kittle in 2 leagues, and there's one more amongst several other more minor injuries. Like every week, I've had at least 2 injuries, I think, every week, which is just statistically not likely. Zerks, what is up? I got offered Evans and Walker for Carter and Tet. Okay, so Mike Evans, Ken Walker for Michael Carter and Tedderell McMillan. Full PPR in my record 2 and 3. Oh, wait, you get Evans. Okay, I still don't know which one I like more. So I like Evans more than Tet, probably. Although, man, that's pretty close for rest of the season there. And like Carter's shelf life is limited. Walker's in some sort of stupid, weird split. That's probably helping to keep him healthy and keep him maybe a little bit more efficient, but also makes him a little bit flaky. Carter I don't like very much, though. So Walker I definitely like more than Carter, and Evans I think is a toss-up between him and Tedderell McMillan. So I would accept. Full PPR. Probably pushes Tedderell McMillan a little ways ahead of Evans. Doesn't change anything for Walker versus Carter. So you're giving up a little bit of upside. You're getting a better running back for sure. And you still might be getting a really good wide receiver. He's just probably going to be a little bit more boomer bust than he's already been in his career because you got, Chris Godwin. But he's like the one unique receiver. So he might also just do what he's always done and just have some high upside. I mean, Baker Mayfield definitely trusts him and likes him. So I think I would accept that. Ben, is drop Tootin or Henderson for Carter? I think you could drop Tootin for Carter. I don't know if I can wait for both, right? You're him, Quincy. You are he. Thank you, Quincy, very much. Ridiculous, but thank you anyways. Ben Rolla, should I drop? Not his drop. Yeah, I figured it out. And Lost Hampton, yeah, me and you both sucks. With bye week, I only have Henderson for an RB2. Don't they have it's a good matchup, right? Like, he could end up going off, getting a big run. Where the heck are you? Where are they? Where is Henderson? Oh, just right there. New Orleans. Oh, it's one of those matchups that it feels really nice when you see the name, but is it actually that great? Yeah, it's been a good running back matchup. Teams running on him a lot, yeah. So I mean, this is just like a weakness that teams like. Maybe not the most efficient, but I mean, up there. Just not one of those very, very bad teams. And teams don't have to be worried. Like, you just run the ball. You don't have to be worried about their offense too much. And on the receiving side too, not the lowest here. Well, pretty bad, pretty inefficient. But half a touchdown a game in the receiving. But who knows? It could be Ramondre or him that gets any receptions. That's not a clear cut in terms of which one gets receptions. Hunt, Corum, Algier, Carter on the wire. I do believe I have Carter ranked ahead of him. I mean, it's just kind of like because you have to. Because Carter's going to get more opportunities, almost certainly, than Travion Henderson, no matter really what the game script is. But I do have him back to back. I also do have a tier split. I don't know, and it would depend who I'd have to drop for Carter. And then yes, I would play Carter over Henderson. But I mean, it's a far from guarantee in my eyes of who actually scores more. I wouldn't drop anyone of too much value. The only thing is, how long is Benson supposed to be out? Isn't it like 6+ weeks? 2 days ago, updated timeline on Benson. Out 4 to 6 weeks. So we're already down 1 week. I don't like him this week. I don't think I'm going to like him next week either. So, like, maybe in 2 weeks he has a good matchup and does well, but maybe he's done poor the last 2 games before that. So maybe you don't start him anyways in the game that he does well in. I'd probably yellow Henderson, but I mean, I got a 1 spot ahead of Kamani Vidal, who I actually have ranked higher than Haskins, and that's going to flip. And actually, now that we got clear word on Haskins against Miami, I'll probably be moving Haskins up a tier. Oh gosh, which 2 did I do? Yeah. I'll probably have Haskins ahead of Michael Carter. Probably still behind Ramondre, because that is a good matchup. But close. I think behind Ramondre just because I'm not completely convinced, despite that report, that it's not like even 50-50 or something like that. Come on, Vidal getting a decent amount of work. Could you get is Haskins available? I'll have Haskins ahead of Michael Carter. To me, they feel pretty equal. All right. Is there any other questions? Otherwise, we'll just we'll end the stream nice and early. I don't mind that. Give you a moment to get any questions in. So far, between Mason Taylor, Michael Carter, 19 votes, Kenneth Gainwell, and the combination of Haskins or Vidal. I think it's Haskins now. I saw that report after I made that poll, actually. Michael Carter is by far and away the number 1 best waiver wire ad according to the people of the Forge. Zerks, what do you think of Dobbins' rest of season? Pretty good. I mean, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think like he's he's overproduced somewhat. I really like him this week. I got him in my first tier as a must start. Yeah, I think I would rather Ja'Cory Krosky merit rest of season over Dobbins, but he's in that tier, and that is a pretty good tier at this point. Maybe that's at the bottom of the ETN tier just because, you know, still not 100% sure about the ETN tier or which tier he might belong to, but like at this point, it looks like Derrick Henry would be in that tier. Jalen Warren's probably like higher up than them ish because of the receiving upside for him. Yeah, I mean that's just like there's like a small that's like a second tier though. I mean, so I feel pretty good about Dobbins. I do think at some point RJ Harvey expands his role, but I don't know that it kills Dobbins' value. It might push Dobbins towards the back of that tier or high end next tier into like Ramondre Stevenson tier because he's just getting like 5 fewer touches. I mean, you look at the opportunities there between the two, that would just about clear that gap. So I put him rest of season. I guess he's somewhere between tier 2 and tier 3 running back. I mean, Stevenson probably shouldn't be on most waivers. Is it bigger than a? Is it 10-team league or bigger? We buy homes near you. 512. What is up? 10-team league. Okay. I mean, probably. He's, you obviously just get a little bit concerned about, like, it's like matchup, I mean, he's in a good matchup this week. I still don't have him ranked incredibly high. But he's ranked around this area, like, every week. Kind of regardless of the matchup. Like, he and Zach Charbonnet are in incredibly similar matchups, and you see Zach Charbonnet actually is averaging more opportunities per week and has been a little bit more productive because of the touchdowns that he's gotten. So, I have them just behind and above each other. So, like, if Zach Charbonnet's owned in your league, then Ramondre Stevenson probably should be. Yeah, he's play worthy. Ultimately, it depends, and it depends who you can drop for him. But he's worth having on a roster. Like in a 10-team league, that like this is kind of the line where it's like, okay, these guys probably don't need to be owned. The Kareem Hunts of the world and stuff probably don't need to anymore. But I think Ramondre is a step ahead of them. Technically, at this point, Kareem Hunt's been just as good as Ramondre. But I don't know how likely that is. But Isaiah Pacheco, worse. All right, who at flex this week? Henderson, T. Higgins, or Harvey? All right, so I don't know, I haven't done my flex rankings yet, so I don't know how this is going to work out. But currently, if Joe Flacco's the quarterback, I moved T. Higgins up a fair bit because I had him low. I did have him low, so I actually just moved him back. I just moved him up to like where consensus is. I don't know if they're going to end up moving him up, but I'm kind of willing to take that shot on T. Higgins. Like, the one type of receiver, if things work well enough. Now, Green Bay, pass rush, it's probably going to be hard to get the ball out to T. Higgins because he's more the deep route guy. Ja'Marr Chase will be the one that they'll be able to clear stuff out for. But our cornerbacks aren't that great, and Joe Flacco is willing to just give guys like 50-50 balls and just see what happens with it. And T. Higgins being the type of body he is, like I could see Joe Flacco just giving him some shots, especially if they're in some garbage time and stuff. So like, I'm more optimistic about T. Higgins than I was previously if Joe Flacco's the quarterback. And once again, I don't know how much better that actually is. It's theoretical. So I would probably take that shot. Henderson isn't a good running back matchup too. So it would be T. Higgins on a hope and a prayer. Henderson also on a hope and a prayer, but less hopeful and prayerful than RJ Harvey. New York Jets have actually been really good against receiving backs, but not so good against backs that are running against them. So that's why I love J.K. Dobbins this week and have RJ Harvey actually behind Imari DeMarcado even. Will Chase Brown be better with Flacco in? I don't know. I mean, he was getting targeted kind of heavily. I don't know. Because, like, they just try to run him up the middle, against the tackles. Their guys can't block for shit. And he's the kind of guy who needs, like, a little bit of space so he can wiggle around. And so when he's just getting smacked right off the bat, like, it just doesn't work for him. He's not a power back at all. And they kind of run him like a power back into a poor offensive line. And then, I mean, you would hope some sort of better ball placement or something will let Chase Brown should be good after the catch, but he's also just getting gobbled up. And I think that's because, like, defenses aren't afraid of that offense how it was. Will they be afraid of Joe Flacco? Well, they were kind of coming down on Joe Flacco in Cleveland too, but now Joe Flacco has definite better receivers. So will Joe Flacco stop throwing all the short shit and start throwing, which will open things up then for a running back to just be more efficient? I would say you can't get worse. I am hopeful. I don't even want to say optimistic. I'm hopeful for Chase Brown going forward. Haskins and Carter on waivers also. I like Haskins better than Carter this week, 5-1-2. I have Haskins ranked better than the running backs. Once again, the T. Higgins thing is just like, do you feel the same way or not? If you like my theory, if you think that even if it doesn't work throughout the normal game, maybe once we get into garbage time, just like last week, it could be T. Higgins this week instead of Jamar Chase. And this is all dependent on Joe Flacco. But the Ian Rappaport's opening, it was like, welcome in the new era at quarterback, Joe Flacco in Cincinnati. So to me, it just sounded like Ian Rappaport heard that he's going to be the starter right out of the gate. They're sitting that other dude. So I have him in as my starter. Good to see you as well. We buy homes. Thank you. Frank Nunez, what's up? What's cracking? Who to flex? Chase Brown, Flowers, Sharps, or Golden? It's going to be between Flowers and Charbonnet. I didn't do my flex rankings yet, so, like, check back later in the week. This is truly a waiver wire video, but a session. I think, I believe I have Flowers really low, but it depends who's the quarterback. If Jamar Chase? If Lamar Jackson comes back, I like Flowers. If not, it's going to be close between Charbonnet and Flowers. I don't know which one's going to be higher. I would guess. Let's see. Where do I have Charbonnet? Jacksonville. Not the worst. I would guess it's going to be close. They're going to be very closely ranked. I don't know which one I end up putting higher, but, like, it's a coin toss at this point without Lamar Jackson. Golden, that's a hope and a prayer. I do like the matchup. Might end up having a big day. Very well might not. Coming off the bye. Hopefully, like, they get him more involved. But it was only, 4 weeks before the bye. So it's a little bit different than, like, that week 6, week 7 bye for rookies, I would assume. Chase Brown, we could probably not do that. Although, I probably have Chase Brown ahead of Charbonnet, don't I? Shit. I have to. Shit. One spot. Okay, so it's still going to be close. Chase Brown. Followed closely by Charbonnet. And then Flowers if it's Lamar Jackson. Jazerks, do I start Laporta over Carter or Pollard? I moved Pollard down a little ways, assuming Tyjae Spears' role is going to expand. I do think I saw a report that said it will. Like, of course. And Michael Carter, I don't like a lot. I got Pollard ranked higher than him. Laporta? For the ceiling, yes. For the floor, no. It kind of depends what you want. I have Kraft starting already. Full PPR must win week. Full PPR? Pollard, Carter, Laporta. Full PPR. I might be willing to just take that shot. Frank Nunez, Love or Fields? Love against Cincinnati. Please, please, please again. Obviously, like, yeah, maybe the running game just works out and he doesn't have to pass as many touchdowns, but highest implied point total. You got to get that lead somehow. Cincinnati, not very good against receivers. Give me Jordan Love. I do have Fields quite low this week against Denver. I don't think it's a very good matchup. Of course, he could do better. I might end up moving him up a little ways in my rankings, but I will not have him higher than my as high as quarterback 6 this week. So it's to me it's easy, and it's easier said than done because of what Justin Fields has done on the season. But I mean, Jordan Love's not too far behind him on what he's done on the season, and he's playing Cincinnati. This guy. He's playing Denver. And we know the floor here. And we know that the floor is not as low for Jordan Love. Austin Elmore, chat. Should I trade Diggs for BTJ? What did chat say? I would say yes. I love the T. Higgins theory. I own Murray and Danny Jones. I was debating on dropping Murray or trading him away. Who are your top 3 quarterback streamers this week? I think it's Matthew Stafford, Jackson Dart, who I am fading this week, but still he's up there for streamers. I do actually, if you can get yourself to do it, which it might be tough to do, Bryce Young going up against Dallas, they make quarterbacks look good. Remember week 2, how that looked for the New York Giants for that guy who didn't make it to week 4? Russell Wilson, remember that? Against Dallas? 400 plus 500, I don't know, passing yards? 4 touchdowns or something? Bryce Young is probably at the top of that list. I think Sam Darnold's pretty much owned at this point. Oh, Mac Jones, if he ends up being the starter, which I think that's why I have him listed. Like, I think he'd get starter. So I have Mac Jones, Matt Stafford, Mac Jones, Sam Darnold if he is available. Bryce Young would probably be my top 3 this week. And then Jackson Dart, Michael Penix. I don't mind if you got to play him. Tua, it's not the best matchup. Geno Smith, yeah, it feels ugly, but I kind of want to rank him ahead of Tua here. I don't know. The big thing is, maybe they get that run game going against Tennessee, and then so maybe it's just so-so day anyways for Geno, whereas Tua could be having to pass a lot. And that offense seems to have found some sort of rhythm. In the rhythm of the night. Caden, what is up, Caden? Guys, don't forget to like the stream. It is appreciated. Kicker rankings. I don't have rankings, but I can look at kickers. Do they have no, I gotta go to the rankings. No, that's not what we wanted. On a week 6 rankings. Kickers. Fairborn on bye. Should I keep Fairborn? Probably worth dropping, right? I have Fairborn too. Bench is Nix, Fields, ETN, Sutton. Yeah, I'm not dropping anybody off that bench for a kicker. Cameron Dicker going against Miami. Yeah, that looks pretty nice if he's available in your league. Apparently I have him in the league that's in here. Yeah, no. Generally speaking, I like kickers on teams with good defenses that are expected to win the matchup. And are on teams that don't like to go for it on 4th down and stuff like that. You find those three things all working together for a week, go for it. Big, big time favorite, good defense, coach who's not in the modern era and doesn't go for it every fourth down. I think Buffalo falls into that. They go for it on enough fourth downs, but like not all of them at least. Let's talk about the head coach. Kansas City, they're not like a fourth down go for it team. Frank Nunez. So for waivers, who you like better to pick up at tight end? Mason. I like Mason the most. Kyle Pitts. I think I like. I mean, I think it's got to be Kyle Pitts. But I like. I still have him ranked ahead of Mason this week, too. I'm just curious. Yeah. Consensus has a bit of a difference there. If Pitts is available, it's Pitts. But I do like Mason. But nothing's guaranteed for any of them. I would go Pitts, Mason, Theo, Ingram, Barner, probably in that order. Caden, start one wide receiver, one flex. Debo, Sutton, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Thomas Jr., Breece Hall, ETN. Okay, wide receiver. I think I have Debo ranked the highest this week. And it might be Sutton. I haven't done my flex rankings. I'll do them by Thursday. I'm here an hour and a half prior to kickoff. I'll have flex rankings. I could give you a definitive answer. Sutton against the Jets. Yeah, I think I would go with the two receivers, probably. My receivers 11 and 14, especially if it's like full PPR. Breece Hall going up against Denver isn't the most beautiful thing in the world, and they're really efficient in stopping receiving backs. ETN is in another not good matchup, I believe, against Seattle. They're good against the run, so I'm not expecting a big ETN week. And yeah, I like Sutton and Debo more than MSJ and Brian Thomas Jr. We buy homes 512. Mac, Darnold, and Bryce are available on waivers. Well, I think that was Sam Darnold, right? Oh, it was Mac, actually. It was Mac Jones, you're saying? I would go Mac Jones. If you like Darnold more, I've got him in the same tier, so I would go with one of those two. But if Bryce Young outscores at least one of them, don't say I didn't told you it was possible. I know he's not been looking good, making some bad decisions, but Dallas. So if you want to shoot for a ceiling, the only thing is I think Mac Jones against Tampa Bay has got some ceiling potential, especially if he gets his wide receiver or wide receivers back. Sam Darnold, I would say, has like the least high ceiling there. So I would go Mac Jones, and then, I mean, I might just take a shot on Bryce Young because it's just a gut call. So that's not how I have it ranked, and I don't think I'm going to change that ranking. Probably not, but you never know. 10-team league. So you probably want to go for the upside anyways in a 10-team league because your opponent probably has all the better of a quarterback that you're trying to compete with. So lean into Bryce there maybe. IP, one foe. What up, IP? How you doing? I'm starting 3 Packers players this week in one league. Oh boy. Good luck. It's Cincinnati, so should go all right. What is it? Matthew Golden, Jacobs, and Love, I was going to say. Dobbs. Yeah, I mean, I got them all as good plays this week, so definitely could work out. Obviously, Dobbs is, like, never a sure thing. I think we're probably coming towards packing up here. Any other questions, guys? Sorry to do that as soon as you get in, but you know how it is, IP. Sometimes I say that, and then it's 45 minutes later. Injuries cooked me in that league. The league with Dobbs there, you saying? I'm just cooked. I'm just cooked this year. It's not all the fault of my drafting. Some of it is. And they were basically the decisions that I would have made differently. I could have made differently. and one or two of them I meant to make differently. But nonetheless, I mean, I've got like 6 players in 2 leagues that were drafted in top 4 rounds that have been injured. So 6 out of like 75% of my top 4 round guys have been injured severely or more, or out for the rest of the season across 2 leagues. So that's not talking about the work league, which has George Kittle as one of those guys. That's also on one of those teams. Who do I start in my flex full PPR? Hunter Henry, I assume, right? I don't think there's another Henry. Hunter Henry, Godwin, Pollard, Carter, Myers. So obviously I haven't done my flex rankings yet, IP, so I can't say for sure what I'll say. Derrick Henry, okay. I knew there was a different Henry. I got Derrick Henry ranked pretty low this week. I don't like that matchup. And then how well he's been performing and everything. Obviously, if Lamar Jackson's back, that'll change the story a little bit. But I don't know about how much. Godwin, Pollard, Michael Carter, or this might end up being Jacoby Myers. It very well could be Henry. Assuming Lamar Jackson's back, it's probably Henry, but I currently have Pollard ranked higher than Henry, I believe, at least. Full PPR. Yeah, currently, I mean, Myers isn't a good matchup to bounce back. I don't know why it hasn't been better, especially last week with no Brock Bowers. But 'tis been the case. Probably dropping Myers for Darren Waller, though. So, Darren Waller. Right now, I think it's Tony Pollard. That will very well change if it's Lamar Jackson, I assume. And Henry would be higher. Check back on like Thursday when I have flex rankings, maybe. Bob Hope, and I haven't finalized my running back rankings yet. I'm doing that in the morning. Sutton, Myers, Keenan, Swift in my flex PPR. Also, should I pick up Pitts or Taylor and Haskins or Vidal? Thanks. Okay, so far the news report is that it's going to be Haskins over Vidal as next man up. I'm not 100% sold on that, but I'm sold enough that that's how I'll be ranking it. Sutton, Myers, Keenan, Swift in my flex PPR. Should I pick up Pitts or Taylor? So I do think Pitts is still a better pickup than Taylor. Somebody else had the same. I like Taylor. I love Taylor. Pitts has been good enough this season so far and showed promise that it might be able to continue, and the offense that Taylor's on and whatnot. It is still Pitts over Taylor. Hopefully that's not a mistake. I don't know if there was a question between Sutton, Myers, Keenan, Swift. I believe I have it ranked something like Keenan or Sutton. Let's just say Keenan and Sutton, and then probably Swift over Myers for flex rankings. I don't know yet. Haven't done them. Yeah, so Pitts, Haskins, and then I think I got the rest of that Bob Hope. Whether that was a question or not of who to play out of that group. Otherwise, between Sutton and Keenan, I think it's Keenan that I have ranked higher. Yeah, I've got Keenan just a spot ahead of Sutton, and I might end up moving Keenan ahead of Quentin Johnston. We buy homes near you. One more. Should I roll with Gay, McManus, Boswell, or the Rams kicker this week? All right. So kicker, Green Bay Packers, McManus. I do like that. That's going to be high up there. Gay. Washington. Who the heck are they playing this week? Ugh. Chicago could give them a game on offense, so they might not be able to settle for kicks. So I'd say McManus over Gay. Pittsburgh, I think, they are expected to be the winners against Cleveland. I mean, it's definitely one of those games where like he could end up with 5 field goals. I think I still like I like the floor for McManus more than Boswell. I like the ceiling for Boswell. I mean, like, we've seen that Pittsburgh-Cleveland just be a kicker fest, and I don't know that there's much reason to think it might be something different this year. But I do like McManus still better by a little ways. Rams, Kirky, whatever your name is. Is that right? Is that who I'm looking for? There you are, Cardi. Against Baltimore, that's pretty good too, huh? I'm going to lean into the implied point total. Los Angeles Rams 26.5. Green Bay Packers a little bit higher. But on the season, so and they don't pepper him with field goals. It's about the same. Which defense could stop the other more often? Baltimore's supposed to get some pieces back, right? Who's going to be more efficient? I think I'll probably just stick with Cardi. Probably. It's so close between those two for me. Bro, he got 3 to 4 catches in the fourth quarter. Gino hates him. Will Jacobs be in your T5? What's my T5? Firing up Rico, the GOAT, in 2 leagues this week. Rico. Dallas. Not a bad matchup. Colts signed a new kicker. Badgley. Hey, I like Badgley just because I like the name for some reason. Frank, since we're talking kickers, lost Indian kicker. He was number 1, and they signed Badgley, so him or Pinheiro. Didn't Pinheiro make like a long kick this last week? I would probably stick with Badgley. He's a veteran. Good enough. I think that Indy might just spank Arizona. Possibly. Now, coming off of all the embarrassment of last week, like, Arizona's probably going to come out focused, and maybe that won't be the case. But, like, they very well could spank them. In which case, Indy kicker, plenty of opportunities. Should exist. Nino Pena, are we fully on? Yes. Got offered Lamar and Flowers, Rice, and JCM for CMC, McBride, and Dak. Okay, so you give up CMC, McBride, and Dak. Get Lamar, who I would rather have than Dak for the rest of the season. Flowers, who... Okay, and Rice. And JCM. So JCM's limited for upside. I like him as a borderline, like high-end RB2 probably, because I do think that the touchdowns should come. So it's an RB2 or an RB1, like a top RB1 in CMC. So is the difference between McBride and Dak? Okay, I would rather Lamar than Dak by a little ways. Flowers and Rice, McBride. Are you going to be able to play Flowers and Rice every week? Like, what's your wide receiver? Nino, what's your other wide receivers look like? Are you pained at wide receiver? Also been having flex problems with throwing guys like Alec, Pacheco, Harvey. Okay, so if you make the trade, does that that probably doesn't fix your flex problem yet for Rashee Rice. No, nothing wrong with taking. I would take. If you're just looking for, if you make this trade and you're just looking for a guy for 1 week, I would go Haskins. I don't love it, but that's what I would probably do. If you're looking for a little bit more Well, I'd probably go Haskins. I actually think I like Haskins more. Um, you can make the trade. I talked about it earlier. Like, Rashee Rice will probably not be what he was for the first 3 weeks last season. Just know that. I don't I don't know if I would accept it, but you could accept it, and it depends what the rest of the roster looks like a little bit too. Um, because if you just need, like you said, your problem, this should fix that problem at least by getting more guys. So that should like, it sounds like you should make the trade. I'll say that, Nino. There's just no guarantee that it's going to work, but if you're not 4-0 or something like that right now, then yeah. Top five. Who was the question? Jacobs in my top five this week? I feel like yes. I feel like 2 or 3, 3, 4. Where are you, Jacobs? Number 1. Jacobs is my number 1 this week. Gamblin' Jeff. I'm going to call you. GMB. What up, Jeff? Jaden Daniels, AJ Brown, Mecca Buka, Debo, Brees Hall, RJ Harvey, Rashad White, Hawkinson. I drafted Neighbors number 1 and he done shma. Someone offered me Javonte Williams for Debo. That seems pretty fair. I think I would probably lean Javonte because I like running backs more than receivers, generally speaking. Like, I'd rather have running back depth than receiver depth, and so when it's on equal ground, I'll probably lean towards the running back. And eventually, McLaurin should be back. You've got A.J. Brown, who I think might have a good week finally this week, hopefully. Egbuka. He's been fantastic. Then you got Brees Hall, RJ, Rashad. Yeah. I think you would rather get Javonte in there. I mean, either way, it doesn't really help you, like, your flex spot. But I do lean Javonte by a little bit over Debo. Full PPR, that's a little bit closer, but, like, not by a whole lot, especially long term. Diggs top 15 rest of season. No. Seattle is ruining Ken Walker. How? They're keeping him healthy. What do you mean they're ruining him? Frank Nunez. What DST to pick up? Green Bay or Chicago? I prefer the better DST, Green Bay. Yeah, so for now, I mean, I just kind of want to win every week. So I don't look too far ahead schedule-wise. If Chicago's the better schedule 2 out of 3 weeks, I still probably take Green Bay because I just think it's a better defense. But it would kind of depend on the matchups. Like, there are some offenses I feel more confident with Green Bay than other offenses. Yeah, I just prefer better defenses that I think are going to get more sacks. Is really the one that I care about the most because that's kind of that baseline stat that's always there. Fumbles are pretty random, and picks are picks are fine, but pick sixes are impossible to predict really. So I lean Green Bay. Yeah, Frank, I would say Green Bay without going and looking at the actual schedules, but I still, once again, feel like most likely I would say Green Bay anyways. Other wide receivers are Diggs, Alec, Jacoby. Ooh, I mean, not bad. You get those. Is there a chance? You probably can't flip Jacoby for much. Okay. I assume Diggs. Wait, those are like, is Diggs your best receiver outside of Flowers? Or is it Diggs and Flowers are your best receivers? Because you said you've been throwing like Alec, and I guess your Jacoby for a while was maybe your wide receiver 2, and then it wasn't over Diggs. Okay, then yeah, probably. Splitting touches with a back that is half the skill level, and he's stealing his touchdowns. Yeah, because one of them goes -6 yards sometimes, which you don't want to do when you're on the goal line. So if you could go have a chat with Ken Walker and tell him, hey, at least when it's like 3rd and 1, 3rd and goal from 1 yard out, could you just go forward and not try doing a spin move and just lower your shoulder and go for it? You could tell him to do that. They probably wouldn't have to put Charbonnet out there. But you know what Charbonnet does? He gets you 2 yards. He lowers his shoulder, he pushes forward, and he gets some yardage. Which one of those two backs do you want when you trusted them to get a touchdown? You're going to choose Charbonnet. Yeah, he's not as explosive, but he's okay. And also, Ken Gainwell had a lot of injuries in his career. Let's keep him off the field a little bit, so that way he stays healthy. At least he's playing for your fantasy team. He's been doing okay. He's up there. Look at that. You know, good production. You'd like a little more usage. But, and you'd like those touchdowns. You'd definitely like those touchdowns. By the way, though, they've been getting like equal amounts of touches. Up until week 4. It's just Ken Walker doesn't get him in. Two goal line. Okay, maybe it was just up until week 4. But I assume, do they have goal line? He's got 3 touchdowns for you. That's 14th in the league. Or maybe it was just opportunities. Maybe it was just like carries in the red zone or something like that. Do we have any of those stats here? No. It's going to be like 6. 4. Yeah. So up until this week 5, I do declare. Oh, here we go. 10 red zone carries through the first 3 weeks. What are you thinking? I'm thinking like 9 red zone carries through the first 3 weeks for Walker. Now, Charbonnet, hold up. Charbonnet missed week 3, right? So weeks that they both played, 2, 4, 7 for Walker. Was that week 4? Did I do it right? Whatever. I mean, it's been close. It's not like Walker hasn't had any opportunities. Where the frick? What the freak? Yeah, 4 to 4, 8, 10 to 7, was it? I mean, not a big difference. You're benching Ken Walker for a shot this week? I wouldn't do that. Yeah, I think you should start him over White. It's not a good matchup for Rashad White. I got Ken Walker ranked 19th. I got Rashad White ranked... Ah, never mind. Yeah, start him. I don't know who I was thinking of. Yeah, I got Rashad White ranked higher than Walker. Go for it. Ignore what I said. I think it's just the opportunities for Rashad White. It is kind of like not the best matchup. Andre, really hate the way Trayvon Henderson being used, man. Looked great in preseason. It's preseason. This is why I don't know why people freak out about preseason every freaking year. We literally can't remember a year and every year in the past of our life. Like this happens every year. Reminder having a fumbling issue and they still don't use him. It's whack. They actually went to Antonio Gibson over him. So I think that tells you something. Jeff Rogers, Steelers defense or Packers defense, both have great matchups. Yeah, I think I'll still stick with the Packers defense. Samuel Russell, McCoskey Merritt, JCM. Is this the top ad? He's available on your waiver wire? What? Oh, yeah, people were dropping him last week. I had to tell a couple people not to. Yes, if JCM's available, he is the top ad. Yeah, I had to convince like 2 or 3 people, don't drop him. IP14, Baker Mayfield loves checking down to his running backs. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Walker barely gets receptions. So the issue is, through the first 4 weeks, San Francisco has only allowed an average of 16.8 yards to receiving yards to running backs. Super inefficient. I mean, when teams have been passing against them to the running back position. I think they got a linebacker there that does something about instincts and closing in on plays quickly and whatnot. So that is the issue. I'm waiting for the new numbers to come in tomorrow before I figure out what I do between these 3. Because that's kind of like the issue. There's issues with all 3 of them. And I'm so close to having JCM just ranked higher than all of them. But he just doesn't get like, what was it? Yeah, he still gets, fewer opportunities than these guys, but not by like a whole lot. So I don't know. I might end up JCM like up with J.K. Dobbins, but that feels like I shouldn't do that over those guys. I thought the new OC would design running back screens like he did with Kamara. You thought they'd be more? You thought they would throw to the running backs more with the new OC than they did last year? I mean, they threw a hell of a lot to him last year. I mean, you got to remember, New Orleans literally had nobody. Like, they had nobody to throw to. They had to do something with Kamara like that. They don't throw... Yeah, they do. They've been throwing... let's see here. All right, so 4 or 5 targets, 1, 2, 1 in weeks 1 through 3. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 5, 4. 1, 2, 1, 5, 4. What's the other running back's name there? There we go. I don't know why I couldn't think of it. 1, 2, 1, 5, 4. Five, 8, 5, 4. Hold up. That was both those were 9. 8, 9. 1, 2, 1, 5. Okay, wait. 1, 2, 1, 5. 10 targets in week 4 to the running backs combined. 8 targets in week 2. And then 5 and 5, which is, I mean, you want to see what Josh Jacobs has done 3 out of his 4 weeks? He's the only running back that gets anything here, usually. 1, none. That Niner, 4. They never reached 5 outside. Well, okay, he reached more than 5 once. I'll take the JSN points. Hell yeah. Oh. Yeah, no. No. I ain't. They're just really not like the best receiving backs in the world. I know there was some buzz out there, like Ken Walker had a decent amount of targets last year, but they threw so much. All right, good conversation. I love it. I love the combo, and I wasted my time looking at the Bucks. But um, yeah, they don't throw to the backs a whole lot. It, they just had no choice with Kamara, and that was a counter argument that I did speak about at least once this last season at some point. All right, we're gonna call it there. Good hour and a half here with waiver wires. I appreciate y'all. So, with the final vote, 26 votes in, it is going to be Michael Carter with the clear-cut number one option according to the people. I'm kind of on like taking a. I mean, it's a risk, but I'm kind of on like Haskins over Carter for the next 3 weeks. Although I haven't looked at the chart, I would have to look at the schedules to verify that for sure. Michael Carter, I said that at the beginning. He's the number one, but I don't know. It might be Haskins if I checked on it, but it would still also be at a risk. Mason Taylor, number two, with 20% of the vote. Ken Gainwell, yeah, people aren't buying that one. Samuel Russell, very frustrating. I've never heard of this, but in my league, the same person is top on waiver wire every week. Yeah, I have a league. It's the worst. It's the worst team in your league. I hate the setting because usually now this year I have a bad team, but you get rewarded for having a sucky team week after week. I hate it. There's no strategy to the waiver wire. You might as well just use it every week. And in that sense, like, okay, it takes a little bit of that stupid guesswork out, but like, maybe there should be some sort of staggered between the two. Like, if you didn't use a waiver wire last week, then you don't lose your position, and then it's worst schedule for everybody who did use a waiver wire. Something like that could make enough sense. But, yeah, I hate it because I've had really good teams where if I had a league where I could have just made that one waiver wire move also to bolster my team up, but every single week where somebody came on the waiver wire because I'm I'm 11 or 12th basically every week, I can never get some of those guys. And then by the end of the season, the shitty teams have acquired all of these all these guys that all of a sudden they come out of nowhere and their team's just good enough. And then I faced one of them in the playoffs and they got Kyron Williams that they picked off the waiver wire in week 3 that I wanted. Or week 2. I don't know what week that was. Or I got a team where my quarterback went down and I was just having a hell of a time replacing him. And like the 1 or 2 times where an actual good replacement came up, I could get him because of waiver wire. It sucks, Samuel. It's stupid. It rewards the shitty teams too harshly. I think what the magic number is if any team who did not use their waiver wire remains at the same, and then it's worst record for every team who did up. I think that's a nice kind of way to like try to keep the league competitive, because I get that argument, keeps the league competitive. It does, but like too much. Haskins does have Tennessee and Miami over the next 2 weeks. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Nino. Thank you. And I know that over the next 2 weeks, I don't like Michael Carter very much in his matchups with no receiving upside. So I think I like Haskins actually more than Michael Carter. I am probably the only person in the world, so no, I'm clearly not the only person in the world. 15% of the vote said Los Angeles Chargers. But I think that's right. Okay. Samuel, I'm glad I could make you laugh with my... But you're feeling the pain too, right? Like, so stupid. All right. I'm ending the stream there, guys. Thank you so very much for coming in. I appreciate you. I love you all so very much. And I appreciate your support. Just coming in, talking. It all helps. So have a good night. I will see you in my videos. Rankings videos start coming out tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., tomorrow evening, and then next morning, 9 a.m. for the quarterbacks and the tight ends. And then Thursday evening and Sunday mornings, I'm here. Start sit. Let's go, baby. Week 6. not in the books. Week 6 begins. Peace out.